Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is episode 12 of That Scale RC show. We apologize for not having this episode out last week. We had a couple technical issues, but the silver lining in that is that we got an awesome guest to talk with us today. So we are here with Adam Dean, my co-host, and Shawn Rusin, who you guys may know on social media as @Shumser.
That's right. How you doing, everybody?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Just enjoying the Southern California weather right now. You know, it's starting to finally stop raining, so we can get to racing. And yeah, just everything's going well, man.
So it's been raining there, and then where Adam is up north, he's been just roasting. That's kind of what you guys have been dealing with.
It's actually kind of weird that they actually had rain a little bit longer than we did, because typically SoCal's got like almost summer weather, 11 months out of the year. So
Right.
if it gets cold, it's usually like high 70s, or if that's like as cold as it gets. But I think this year most of California got a pretty good winter.
Yeah, we did. We ended up getting a lot of rain. As the people are following, we had to postpone nationals a couple times, which was frustrating because of the rain, and we got off to kind of a rocky start on our summer series because of it as well. But pushing through, and we should be seeing clear skies. So.
God, it's been nice here, like in the 60s, but man, it's like, for whatever reason, with how the island's situated in the Puget Sound up here, it gets wind like you wouldn't believe, and like it sounds like the house is going to blow away right now. So I'm just crossing my fingers praying that the power doesn't go out, because we've had the power go out here, and like at one point there was 6 days, I think, we went without power. So it was,
Oh God,
it was kind of rough.
You need a generator.
yeah,
man.
I was just gonna say you need a generator.
I have one, but it sucks. Like, it is so noisy, and the carb's gummed up, and it was my dad's, and it was like a Harbor Freight special. I mean, the thing like shakes the house when you turn it on. So we just kind of just tough it out and deal with it. It's kind of inconvenient for work sometimes, but
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that, because now with good old PG&E and what's going on with, especially with the Northern California fires, they're talking about they're going to start just voluntarily turning off the power if it's like crazy winds and high temperatures and all that stuff. So especially like up in the Sacramento area and up north from there, a lot of people, this is going to be, if you're in the generator business, this is where you're going to make some serious money, because they're starting to tell people, it could be out for a day, 2 days, 3 days.
Wow.
And, so a lot of people are starting to freak out. I know Michelle's parents actually just bought generators so they can run the important appliances like your refrigerator, your AC if you need to use it, what else, trash pump, all that kind of stuff, just in case if it's out for an extended period of time. I mean, that's what we were testing last weekend in the driveway, was making sure like how far can we push this stuff before it pops. So
wow.
But
For the generator
stuff.
gives out.
Yep, before the generator gives out. So
Man, that's
But-
crazy. I didn't realize it got that bad up there.
well, I don't know if I don't know what your area like tells you about the news, because I know down where Shawn's at, I know they have fires pretty bad.
Yeah.
Last year we got hit really bad. Well, actually, the last 2 years we've gotten hit pretty bad up here in Northern California. So 2 years ago we had the Santa Rosa, that fire, the Santa Rosa area one. That one wiped out I don't know how many acres, and it burnt. That thing was going forever. And so we had that one, which I think they called that one the Tubbs fire, if I'm not mistaken. And then shortly after, they had another fire kind of closer to Clear Lake, and all that. Then they had one by Shasta this year, and then while the Shasta one was going, they had one by Berryessa and by I think Chico. So like they had like 3 going at the same time, and people were starting to like freak out. I mean, like there was some serious. Oh, in Paradise, that was the big one this year.
Yeah.
Paradise got wiped out, and I mean it's been nuts. So
Yeah, it's sad.
It's kind of weird, like, to sit there and, because, I mean, there was a lot of guys that, like, all of us mutually know in the RC world that full on just lost their houses. Like, stuff got burned up. So, I mean, when you think, like, our small community, if you know that many people, it's got to be on such a more grand scale overall. So, I mean, you really start thinking about the amount of damage that was done and the people that lost everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, like an example, when the one up by Shasta and Chico happened, Chris Prestwood had to evacuate his house from Scale by Chris. So he's just like, yeah, we threw everything in the trailer and headed to his parents because his parents were in an area that was safe. It was in a clear zone. So, yeah, that was pretty stressful. Wow. He was like, kids are out of school. I can't work for, like a week because like we got to be away from the house and.
Well, there is a bunch of people at A-Main that lost their houses too. I know Matt from A-Main. His family, they stayed in a hotel for a couple days, and then they got the call that it was okay to go back. But I mean, A-Main had that big fundraiser for the employees that lost their homes and stuff. So that was actually really cool to see. Yeah, that was just gnarly. I don't know. Those cell phone videos and stuff were just haunting from those fires.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, even like I said, there was the one down in SoCal where was that 101 that people were filming it from, and it just a wall. It was just a wall of fire on each side. I believe
you're talking about possibly the Malibu fire. That was
yeah.
I mean, that was really bad. I mean, well, they're all really bad, but the Malibu one down here was really bad. And then the Temescal Canyon one, I think, was the most recent one. I mean, it's not as big as some of the ones, but it's sad to see that many people suffer or losing homes and everything. It's a bummer.
I really hope that we don't get a situation where like sorry, 1 second, I'm getting an emergency message here from the kid. What was I saying?
You're hoping.
I lost it. Sorry, I need to turn my cell phone off. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing that the whole evening.
It doesn't come to something, but then you stop.
I'm just turning my phone off so that I'm not bothered. There we go. Okay. Anyways.
So.
Oh, you know what? It came back. I was just going to say...
We got a little questionnaire.
It hit me. Let me get it out while I still got it here. No, what I was going to say is...
Get it while it's there.
Yeah, dude, exactly. You get old and it happens. No, I was just thinking to myself, when we were talking about all the fires and stuff, I was like, I really hope we don't ever have a lipo fire that causes some kind of, forest fire or something like that, because that would... really, really be bad. I mean, that would shut us down for being at parks and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. It's just probably one more reason to try and run home the whole idea of lipo safety with people. But I don't know. I think we've been pretty lucky so far.
Oh man, not knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of years I've been dealing with lipo, I feel that. I've only had a battery catch fire on me one time, and this is when lipo first came out. We're talking probably 2002, 3 something, and it was when Associated had the 18T little truck, right? And the chargers, they weren't balanced chargers. They weren't smart chargers like they are now. It was literally hook it up to your car charger and charge a lipo, and I don't really remember what happened, but yeah, it caught fire. Almost caught my car on fire.
God, that's gnarly.
That was the one and only time I've ever had a lipo issue. From there on, lipo was, and brushless was still so early then that I was in nitro at that time, so I just dabbled in it, and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm just gonna stick with the nitro stuff, I didn't get back into lipo until much later, and then by then they had good chargers that read each cell and balanced and all that, and They didn't have that when I first started in it, or at least not at the hobby store that I was going to anyway.
Yeah, we got into it around 2010, like late 2010, first part of 2011, and lipos and brushless was still kind of like the hot new thing at that point. And yeah, I think about the first charger we had, and it was pretty sketchy.
Well, it was like with me, I know probably, or like what Jay said, it was probably close to around, because I got my first scale crawler in like 2009. But I didn't really start going to events till about like 2011. But when my first event I went to, I had the nickel metal battery still, and one of the guys at the event was like, you're still running one of those? You got to try lipo. And then I did that. But back then, the brushless wasn't really popular in the crawling.
Right.
Brushless was still kind of like your go fast. Now it's like everybody runs brushless. It's it's crazy.
Except for me, I'm stubborn.
I think some of the real hardcore crawler guys. I think that some guys like the brush because the startup is a little smoother. I don't run brushed motors at all anymore. Back when I was a young kid, I ran brushed long ago, but I haven't touched a brush motor in quite some time.
This year's kind of been my actual first experience with scale stuff with brushless in it. The Bomber and Yeti were, but that doesn't really count. But I'm actually kind of enjoying it now with the whole brushless setup. But it took a little bit more figuring out. You don't just throw it in and go. There's a lot of ESC settings and stuff to play with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, it always kind of came down to I'll be honest, price. The brushless is more expensive, whereas I can get into usually a brush setup, and especially when you have 12 rigs, it's a lot easier to just keep your brush running and only throw brushless in where it needs to be. So that's kind of why I run that setup. So 90% of my cars are brushed still, except for the Go Fast, and the one crawler is a brushless now.
Yeah.
It's really, once you get them figured out, it took me a little bit, but I ended up playing with the throttle curve some. And once I actually got it dialed in, I really, really liked it. But it just, the way I had it set up originally, which was kind of similar, radio settings and whatnot, to how my brush motors were, it was just super violent down low. It was really just it would lurch really hard and back up, and it would it engaged way too hard, and so it was really hard to try and crawl smooth with it. But one of the nice things that I was able to do is just get in and change the throttle curve and made it kind of a nice concave, and it ended up being awesome.
Mm-hmm. And now, that's on a censored motor or
censored? I've never messed with sensorless. I think the last sensorless setup I had was in a Traxxas. It was one of their Valenian systems, and it was whatever. But with racing, it didn't take much with having a racing background to figure out that sensorless or censored is the only way to go in a crawler, because it's just
the startup, it doesn't cog.
Yeah, and some people are like, "Oh, it doesn't cog." It's man, most of them that I've seen do, but I don't know. It's one of those Ford versus Chevy arguments that no one's ever gonna win.
Exactly.
That's a personal preference, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Shawn, Adam's got some questions for you. Why don't we we'll let him get through that, and let our listeners get to know you.
Yeah, these are just little icebreaker questions. And being that we are called the Scale RC Show, everything's basically geared towards scale. So, but feel free to answer it however you want to answer. Like I said, these are just generic questions. First one is, what would be your favorite scale crawler?
Favorite scale crawler? Well, we'll go off of just what I've actually used. And my scale crawler that I run right now is a TRX4, and I like it. I've had good results with it. Although, I'll just start off right away. I do crawl, but I'm a go fast guy. That's why I'm in U4. I like to go fast on rocks, not slow. But I like the TRX4. It's tough. There's several of us that run that car, and we've done very almost little to nothing to them other than put in a brushless system, an ESC, and a servo, and we beat the snot out of them.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So I like
Nice.
that. I like that car. I like the remote diffs and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. It adds a little more to it. I haven't had a chance with the SCX10, so I couldn't really say which one's better. That's what I use. That's what I like.
Is that is the
Okay.
SCX the Chevy? Or
Uh,
the one with the truggy bed?
yes, that's my little '66 Chevy. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll have to post up some pictures of that when we make the post
Yeah.
and saying that this is available, because that
He's
thing
had a
looks
few
sharp.
different. Yeah, he's had a few different bodies. When I first got it, I ran the Jeep body. Then I was running the Raptor truck body on it there for a while, and now because my grandfather bought a '65 brand new, and my dad has it now, so we have a '65 in the family. That's what drew me towards the '66 C10.
Rad.
And I painted it the same color, and the whole nine. Even though my dad's like, I never did like that color.
That's pretty funny. That was probably after the fact too, right?
My aunt actually painted it the baby blue.
Right on.
Nice. So where would be your favorite place to go crawling / trail riding, or you four? I'm gonna mix it all up for you.
Yeah, no, we'll go with the crawling. I really like the Corona del Mar area. I went there a couple times, and I love the ocean, and you get to look at the beach and the ocean while you're crawling. I mean, it's super nice. The only downfall of it is it's kind of at a park. There's a lot of people around. It is a hot spot, though. It's got really nice rock formations, and you get great grip. But I would have to say out here, you can't go wrong with Horseman's, man. That's
Nice.
one heck of a place to go crawling. But here, real close, if I'm just going to go somewhere by my house, there's a place they call Rainbow, which is in Temecula. That's really, really close. So I have a couple spots, but if you were to say what's your favorite, I'm going to say Corona del Mar because of the ocean.
Awesome. I think we had our listeners. The last episode they heard would have been the one with John Schultz. He said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Corona del Mar is one of his favorite places.
Yeah.
So what would be your favorite RC event?
My favorite RC event, Proline by the Fire.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I'm still hearing it from some people. I need to make that on the list next year.
Yeah.
Current number of rigs you own?
Running or not running? I got probably like 13 rigs total. Again, they're not all crawlers. I have a lot of everything. But yeah, I got like 13 cars laying around. Maybe 2 of them aren't necessarily running. I have the very first version of Nitro Revo with a carbon fiber chassis on it that has a Pico 26 motor in it that I kind of hang on to. And then I was really into the monster truck scene, so I also have a fast lane machine 3-speed Savage that sits in a box that I used to run a lot, and it's got some drive shaft issues that I need to work on. So those are the only cars that aren't running. Everything else, yeah, I got a lot of cars, a lot of go fast stuff.
Yeah, that's why we always ask rigs, because when we originally asked each other these questions, I did the same thing. I got a couple monster trucks, a couple go fast, a couple, majority of them are crawlers, but
yeah,
there's a little bit of everything. So that's why we changed it to current number of rigs. So next question would be, do you prefer comp days or trail days? Like going out for actually competing or just having fun?
Oh, yeah, I like just trailing with the friends. Comp's fun. It's just not my speed, really. It's fun. I do like it, where you're going through the little gates and stuff like that. I just don't really personally have... The TRX4 is about the only thing that I would have that would be used for that, and it's got the longer wheelbase on it, and I run kind of a wide stance on it, so really it's not really set up real well for that, but just going out and walking with the friends and hanging out and crawling, that's probably what I like the most. It's all good though.
As long as you're outside.
As long as I got a controller in my hand, I'm grinning.
So I know we kind of went over this a little bit, but brushed or brushless, what is your preference?
Oh, brushless. Yeah. Yeah, brushless all day. Only because my experience with brushed is way back in the '80s, and calm drops and cutting the cams, and it's a lot of maintenance. There's way more maintenance in those motors that I remember. You got to remember, I'm
Mhm.
47 years old. I was playing with RC cars when I was 9, so it's just from what I remember is just a lot of maintenance, and with the brushless, it's less maintenance. You know.
Maybe I'm just like not a good, I guess, brushed motor maintenance person because I don't do any maintenance to mine. I run them until they don't move anymore.
Yep, same here.
The most maintenance I've ever done to it is if it stops moving, I check the brushes, and if they're like, wallowed out, then I just go, all right, put new brushes in it and send it back out on the trail. I don't
Right.
do anything else. I mean, that's the most maintenance I've ever done to a single brush motor. But
Right.
yeah, that's pretty funny.
I'm sure, I'm sure technology's changed from when I was a kid, and you probably don't have to service them as much as you used to. But I remember having to do that a lot to make them last, anyway.
Nice. Current radio setup. Like, what's your go-to radio?
Oh, go-to radio is the Futaba 7PX right now. I'm loving that radio. I've been an Airtronics guy for many, many years. I just switched to Futaba, and I'm loving it. I really, really like it. Now, could I say that it's doing things that my Airtronics wasn't doing? Nah, not really. It's faster. I will say I do notice the speed, but as far as what I'm using the radio for, all the features that I want are there. I haven't gotten quite into a 4-wheel steering car yet. I'm sure it will happen eventually, but yeah, 7PX.
Nice. So I'm just gonna generalize this question because we typically ask what would be your next scaler you would buy. What would be the next RC rig you would buy? What would be the next rig in your fleet that you'd say, like, you go into the hobby shop, hey, this is the one I want to buy next? What would that be?
Oh boy, I got a couple I wants right now. I'm gonna say the next car that is probably gonna hit my bench is gonna be a drag car or something to go fast. Only because I've got lots of rock racers and crawlers going on, and I've kind of got my eye on the that Arma F1 car, the roller. Only because I want to hit 150.
Well, hey, you're down there with Tim Smith and all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're in good company.
They like
But
to go fast.
But for the record, because this is a crawler podcast, and I absolutely will plan on getting one. Of course, the new Element. I'm going to get the Element. Of course, I want to see how it does in U4. I'm going to put it to the test.
Nice.
I'm sure there'll be somebody that will get one before me because I always have way too much going on my plate. But yeah, I'm going to get my hands on one, just like the rest of the crowd, and see how it goes. And I'm an old school Associated fan, so I have to get one.
Nice.
There's a lot of guys saying the same thing that aren't even necessarily like crawler guys.
I grew up on the RC10. I grew up on that since the early '80s. I mean, I started running RC cars when I was 6 or 7. So I mean, I remember the RC10 when it was debuted. My uncle got one, I got one. So yeah, I have to go with. I got to get one.
I was having that talk with a guy the other day, just talking about like how AE has. You don't realize it because it's not as publicized as Traxxas is, because Traxxas, it seems like that's what brings everybody into the hobby. But AE has like a massive Traxxas-like fan base of its own. And that goes back to like guys that don't race anymore that used to, guys that are current racers in this day and age that are looking at getting the AE crawler just because of the fact that AE makes it. So, I mean, it's a huge loyal fan base.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I when at the Pro Line by the Fire, they had one there, and John was there, and I touched it and feeled it and groped it, and they look cool. I like that transmission idea.
Oh my God! Right?
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, it's a great looking truck, and the box is cool, man. It's got a garage in it.
Right?
Yeah. It was funny because me and Jay were actually just talking about scale garages before we got you on the phone.
Mhm.
Because I was telling about how I have mine set up, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to make something that I can carry around." And I'm like, "Well, you can always kind of go that route and copy Element and go cardboard, or make panels that Velcro together, bolt together, piano hinge together, whatever." And bring it with you if that's what you're trying to do. But yeah, it's definitely one of those, I guess, I don't want to say like underestimated or like overlooked, but it kind of is an area that a lot of people, hey, they get a car. I mean, I used to be one of those. I saved the box just for
Oh, I do.
my own weird
Good. I'm not the only one then.
reason. But
I do.
but then they started collecting like really like, because I'm like up to number 15 in RC cars, so like when you're sitting there staring at like a room full of boxes, you're like, yeah, something's got to happen about this.
Oh, you got to break them down.
So I started just I just cut out the front panel, and then I get rid of the I just get rid of the rest of it. So now I got it's a lot smaller, a lot more compact, but
I do that.
No, that was definitely.
I do that. I do that with all my Lego boxes.
Oh, nice.
Keep that stuff.
Yeah. So, but no, it's definitely an area, it's a box. A lot of people just, they just go, oh, it's a box and that's it. They actually went the extra mile, which is pretty cool. Basically utilizing an area that, for the majority of the people just throw out.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's see. We got 2 more questions. I know you've kind of already dabbled in this, but, what is the reason you got into RC or scale RC?
What got me into scale RC was probably the EXO. That's what got me looking at scale, because I was always into just RC cars, and we all know that RC cars, for the most part, look like a spaceship. And so many moons ago, once Axial started, once I started realizing what Axial was, and they started coming up with kits, the EXO was what caught my eye, because I've always loved sand cars, full wheel, 4-seater sand cars, like the Buckshot, things like that. I love those cars. So that's where it really started. The whole idea of, I'm going to have a RC car that has a steering wheel in it and some seats and lights, and it's not just an RC car. Like, you look at an RC10 and it looks like an RC car,
right.
Or like your buggy, any one of your 8-scale buggies or anything like that. They kind of, they resemble what an RC car is. They don't really look like something scale. So that's where it all started. I drove that EXO around, and I still have it. I bought that as a kit when they first came out, and that's where it started. From there, it went into the Wraith, and I started playing with that. But I wasn't really crawling. I had a track in my backyard again, and I tried to drive them fast all the time. I didn't get even into crawling until I had already met some of the guys from U4.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
So that's
really where it started. Yeah, like I am really tried and true a buggy racer, on short course. And so I had bought the Rock Ray and the Baja Ray when they both came out, and I was playing with them a little bit, getting on Instagram, and I met a gentleman of Justin Budowitz, and looking at his cars, and he had some UC Fab car, and I was like, wow, that's cool. What's that? He's like, oh, we race them in, U4. This is texting back and forth. And that's kind of really where it started. That's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go check out this U4 stuff and go give it a shot. He's like, come out and have fun with us. Well, I packed up my Rock Ray and I went out there, and that's really when it started. And that was like, I want to say 2017, summer of 2017. And so that's when really, like, I went out and actually crawled with a group and went slow on rocks, and it was really, I think, some crawl event I did with the Corona Hobbytown USA. It was either that or Proline by the Fire, the second one. But so I'm a new crawler, to be honest with you guys. something that I've just gotten into like around 2017. So it's fun.
Nice. Final question. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been in. Oh, so it's a blast, and it definitely see how it's progressed. Like, I'm sure, like, you've seen everything progress to what it is racing, and even like the buggy racing and all that stuff to see way up to what it is now, and it's just insane. What's where it's going, and how far it's grown, and just to see like, okay, we're still growing.
Right.
So to keep your eyes peeled on what's coming next is, there's. I think we've mentioned this in another podcast. This year has been like a crazy leap forward for a lot of scale goodness between Axio releases, Red Cat releases, the Element release, revamps of the Traxxas releases. I mean, and Vanquish now has their second version of the VS410. I mean,
yeah,
it's just insane how much we're getting
time.
Spoiled in the Scale RC world right now.
I wasn't expecting to see another Vanquish one so soon either.
So, final question. Oh, you got me there too. That was one that was unexpected, especially with the motor forward. That was another mind blower.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that at all.
So sick.
Yeah, that very cool transmission as well.
Yeah. So, final question, and then we'll get into just BS and then whatever else you guys want to talk about. Favorite hobby shop?
My favorite hobby shop is going to be my local hobby shop, which is Mike's Hobbies in Lake Elsinore. Chad and Mike treat me very well, and I have a good time hanging out there with those guys and, watching them work. And every now and then I'll jump in and try and convince a customer to buy an RC car or something, just for the fun of it.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
awesome.
They're right down the street from me, and when I got back into, well, I've never really gotten out of RC. It's always been with me. But when I decided to start dropping some serious coin in RC, that was the first place I went to. And what really drove me to their hobby store is they had an EXO, big, huge picture of an EXO on the front of their building, and I was like, oh, they gotta have Axio.
That's rad.
I ended up walking out of there with a bunch of Baja Ray and the Rock Ray, and gosh, I think I bought a couple cars there. So.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always good to hear, people's stories about their local hobby shops, because everybody's local hobby shop is different.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there's a lot that have come and gone. Some of them, they move on just because they don't get enough support. I know personally my local hobby shop, my closest would technically be J&M Hobbies in San Carlos, but they're more of a plane and boat kind of hobby shop.
Mm-hmm.
I go there really for just paints. Sometimes if they have a body, because otherwise they typically don't have what I need. I got to head down to San Jose before I can actually go to a hobby shop that'll have more crawler related parts. So It's nice to still be able though to interact with a local shop. So.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes I'll go down there and buy something. Sometimes I just want to go out down there and just say hi to the guys and
Mm-hmm.
hang out with Chad and say hi to Mike and Alirs and another employee there. That they're just good guys to hang out with them and talk RC. Chad is with techno, so me and him like talking techno stuff together, and it's one of the it just passes time when work is slow and I want to go hang out and not be at the house. I'll go down to the hobby store. Kind of like my dad used to do, and he just used to go to the gun store all the time. I go hang out at the hobby store.
That's awesome.
Nice. So I guess that where I'm going to take this next is, we've already talked about it a little bit with the U4 racing, and I know for some of our listeners, I'd probably say more towards the listeners back east, and don't be offended if I say this, but it's probably not as big back east. So for anybody listening, how about you give us like a rundown of what U4 racing is?
U4 racing is really it's scale first, performance second. That's really where it started, and it's based on cars that are scaled to King of the Hammers style vehicles, your 4400 class cars. So your bomber would be your very basic. This is what U4 cars look like. This is what we like to see out on the track. We like to see cages and drivers. So it's a scale first, performance second, and it's brutal. You're racing. Some of the tracks we have are got some big rocks in them, and so you've got to drive smart and not just barrel through everything so you don't go home broken. It's kind of what I love about it so much is the challenge of trying to survive an entire day of racing on the rocks without breaking.
Yeah.
That in itself is a challenge. More or less try and go an entire season, a full series, and not break your wallet. But again, I have successfully raced a full season with very minimal broken parts. It's all really how you treat your car on the track. If you drive smart and you're not trying to kill it all the time, you could hit podium and you could actually make it a long time without a broken car. So it depends on your build and it depends on your driving. But U4 is performance first and scale first, performance second, and it's basically, like I said, it's geared off of the King of the Hammer cars. So anything that you see the King of the Hammer guys doing, we look at that and use it as inspiration and try and do something in an RC environment.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what kind of got me into the whole, I guess, U4 style rigs, like your bomber, the UC Fab chassis builds, is that iconic, King of the Hammers, buggy or truggy or whatever you want to call it. That iconic look there's something about it. And I guess if you're out here on the West Coast, it's something that if you've been to a King of the Hammers or you've watched King of the Hammers, then you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I always, I had to do this because I was new and I came in and trying to understand what U4 was all about. That was basically what I did, is I started just watching a lot of King of the Hammer races and getting an idea of, okay, this is the 1-to-1 rock racing. This is what we're trying to do in RC, It's a little different because we're dealing with a driver stand, and it's those King of the Hammer races. Those things wander off, a long ways, and that's kind of like when we did the race, and it reminds me of the K5 style racing because you're going off, in Never Neverland. But we're trying to keep it kind of like a short course with rocks. Sometimes we add some big jumps in there, and it gets a little hairy for the solid axle cars to be going from double or triples and things like that. So you end up just rolling over that stuff. Some guys, will send it. But the like the UC Fab cars and like your bombers and stuff like that, you can jump those, but you've got to be good on your landings.
Yeah, definitely.
Because especially like with the bomber, what ends up happening is they want to bounce and they wheelie and you end up on the hind legs and then they flip over on their lid. So again, that's what I love so much about it. The challenge to keep the thing on the lid and to keep it in one piece and to make it all the way, the whole 8 or 10 minutes, whatever race we're running at the time. I mean, it's tough. Just trying to keep up with the competition and then everything else. It makes it a lot of fun.
Oh,
it makes
yeah.
it a lot of fun.
The closest, yeah, and I think we talked about this before we started recording. The closest I've ever been to rock racing or U4 racing would actually have to be the Ultra 5K at Axial Fest 2 years ago. Did it with the bomber. You're actually running with your car, so it is different than what Shawn's talking about, where they actually stand at a driver's stand and actually just drive around the course from one location. But it's brutal. It is brutal. Especially the Ultra 5K. It's a lot like what you see on King of the Hammers. People are flipped over. Other people are driving right over your rig. You're trying to like flip it back over. I mean, it's
and
tough.
that's that's something in the rock gardens. It's not a free for all. I mean, we do ask of you, if someone is stuck in front of you, to kind of yield before you drive over top of their car.
Sure.
But we do that, it's, there is a little bit of aggressive driving when you're in the rocks, and it can get tight, and you're bumping and rubbing and driving over top of each other, and, but then we try, once you're out on the track section, in the short course sections, it's keep it clean.
Yeah. And with the rocks and stuff, really, 9 times out of 10, when you have guys colliding and stuff in those sections, it's just a race. It's just a racing incident. The car, you're going over a surface so uneven, somebody's going to get pitched into someone else. And
oh, absolutely.
We never really had any, you took me out arguments with U4 when we were doing it here, which was kind of cool, actually, because it was, one of the very, few forms of racing that RC cars that you don't have that argument.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah, I'd actually.
But we just worked through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually have to say, this would probably be a better question, because I know we all mutually know who Gene Boyd is. I know when they had the racing up in Sacramento, the Auburn area, there's a couple occasions where Mike Pham and Dan Wilson would argue that one or the other took them out of the race. So, yeah, I've been around for a couple of those arguments.
Oh,
so
funny.
Yeah.
But it happens everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's just part of the hobby.
Part of the hobby, that's it. Well, tensions flare, and, you're in the heat of the moment, and, I think we've all been guilty of hitting the trigger a little heavier than we should.
Yeah. Most crashes and incidents like that, it's just, all it is just usually some sort of driver error. To, actually intentionally take somebody out is a lot harder than most people realize. And, usually it's just an error or a lapse in judgment that causes those situations. It's not a guy, purposely deciding he's going to clean you out. That does happen, but, it's something I don't see a whole lot of with even regular off-road racing. Everybody kind of, it happens.
Yeah. That's right. That's racing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So here's another Here's another part of the U4 racing that I actually have a little question about, because I actually was kind of, I guess you could say, corner marshalling for the rock races last year at Axial Fest. I don't believe you've been to an Axial Fest yet.
No, I have not.
Have you?
No.
Shawn? Okay. Yeah, so I was going to ask, are those rules somewhat close to how you run the U4 races? Well, because basically in the one class, when it was the kids, we'd flip their cars back over. The 12 and under, we'd flip their cars back over. When you were in the other classes, once you roll over and you can no longer right yourself by driving, you were done.
We race just like any other RC race. We have turn marshals that flip you over when you crash. So if you're going through the rocks and you happen to hit another car or hit a rock and flip over on your side, the turn marshal will flip you over and keep you going. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know at Axial Fest we basically were trying to just mark who was in first, because it was hard. Because I'm sure, which is a whole nother question. Do you guys run any kind of what's the word for it? I don't even know what I'm drawing a blank, but it's the transmitter that
I know what you're talking about.
Transponder. Yeah,
the transponder.
Yeah, we use what we use in SoCal. We use TrackMate. So it's a infrared setup. So it's not MyLapse. It's a little bit cheaper of a setup. We do use Lifetime RC software, but we use TrackMate Loop, and
Oh, no
and
kidding.
TrackMate.
I didn't know you could do that. I
transponders.
thought you had to. I thought that was like strictly
Okay.
MyLabs, and you had to have the decoder box and everything. Wow.
No, no. MyLapse, for the best of my knowledge, MyLapse is part of Lifetime and all that. But no, we managed to get our and Brian Jones, actually, the president of U4, he actually set that up. And he takes the computer home. Sometimes I'll take it home if I'm posting up stuff. But yeah, that's what we use.
Dude, that's killer. That's a way more economical system, if you're looking to start a track, or, if somebody's wanting to,
Yeah,
do a full
you
on
know,
U4 course.
most of us have both. A lot of us hardcore racers, we have MyLapse and TrackMate. The deal is yeah, it's that decoder and that loop is expensive.
Oh yeah, it's bad. I mean, all the racing up here is MyLapse. I've never been to a
Right.
track that's anything else, but man,
And I would
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I would love to have one. It's just, you know, being as big as SoCal U4RC is, it's just not really feasible to bring one of those in. And my thing is, those transponders are expensive.
Oh yeah, they're
And
100 to 115 from MyLapse.
yeah, these guys are already spending a lot of money on a rock racer. The least thing, just add another $100 and some that they got to throw on their car just so it counts the lap. Go get yourself a TrackMate deal. You could probably get them for $25-$30. I know for a fact that if you're in my area, you can hit up Corey from SoCal Bashers or hit up me, and I can get them to you from pretty cheap, because we order them for CTRC and sell them at that track for $25, I believe, is what we're doing. But they're buying them in bulk.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, we
so it's just easier and cheaper.
When we introduced U4 to our local track here, and had kind of changed the track around to be able to incorporate in rock racing too, like we had to kind of fill in sections in between the sections of pipe with rock and do some bypasses and stuff like that to make it work. But man, the guys showed up to race, and they'd been doing it at other places where they're like hand counting and not using a computer system, and they're like, so we need a transponder, and we had house ones available. But man, as soon as they'd ask, like, well, what if I just buy one, and you tell them the price, they're like, whoa, no thanks.
Yeah,
that's a huge turn off.
It is, especially when you've dropped Lord knows how much money on your car.
Oh yeah,
and then you realize you're not even done yet.
And it's still a big expense, even with like regular RC race cars, because I mean, we have probably 3 to 4 cars we race competitively throughout the year, and man, you get each one of them with $115 transponder. It adds up pretty quick, especially when a buggy's, the transponder is a fifth of what the cost is of a 2-wheel drive buggy or something, so it's pretty tough.
Yep.
So yeah, no, that was just a question I had, because I remember it was a kind of a pain in the butt. That's why they'd have so many, I guess you could say, they called them marshals, but they weren't we weren't flipping cars over, but you had to watch, like, when the first person started, like, they'd hold up a number 1 and they'd point to the car, and if you had to, you had to yell at the next person, hey, this person's in first. And it was kind of a pain in the butt, but then again, they don't everybody that comes like, especially like Axial Fest, not all of them are diehard racers, so they don't have all the equipment, so they don't rely on it. They just do the old school method of counting and saying this person wasn't first, or so on and so forth. But yeah, no, I was just curious to see, and also that way it kind of, I guess, informs our listeners into so they can know, hey, this is how they're doing it. So like, let's say somewhere back east, someone's like, hey, that sounds really cool, I want to start this at our local place. They have an idea of
Yeah, Jermaine Berry has a great track that he runs over
what they
there.
can do to get started. So and I think that's really cool. And then there's one other note I wanted to make.
You were cutting out there.
Yeah, there was like a weird delay or something. It's cutting out.
Yeah, Jermaine Berry, that's a New Benford Radio Control Club.
Yeah, it's a beautiful track.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, so anybody on the East Coast, if you're in that neighborhood, definitely go check it out, because I've seen the pictures of his outfit online, and it is badass. It's a sweet looking track.
Yeah, they do monthly trophy events, and they also do practice, weekly. I've talked to him a little bit about his track. Um, and yeah, no, he's doing it, man, and I got to give him props for it.
That kind of...
Hell yeah.
You there, Adam?
Yeah,
Adam, you there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm here.
I keep losing you, but not Shawn.
yeah. Adam cuts out a little bit here and there, but
Weird, huh? No, so what I was gonna say, and I probably should address this earlier on in the show, but that's all right. People are probably wondering if this is a Scale RC show. Who's Shawn Rusin and why is he on here? And there's a lot of things that have been making me think about Scale RC and exactly what falls into the Scale RC category. And your description of U4 is the exact reason that I was drawn to it, and actually drawn to the hobby in general, because when we first got into RC, short course is what grabbed our attention, my son and I, because they looked real, and we said the same exact thing you did about buggies. Like, dude, I'll never race a buggy. They look so stupid. They look like little spaceships. And 7 years later, that's like all we're driving. But what drew us to it is the scale aspect of it. And then that's also what, like I said, what drew me to U4, what drew me to crawling was the fact that, I mean, man, you can make them look so real and detailed. Well,
yeah.
Now we've got drag racing popping up, and we're seeing a lot of really scale-looking drag racing builds. There's a few spaceship-looking ones out there that kind of look like they're loosely modeled after, like a top fueler, but they're still very RC car looking. But like these Novas and the bodies that Proline's released recently that are, they aren't unlicensed, but they aren't licensed, but they definitely resemble some real rigs. The
Super J is pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it's sweet. So you dabble in so many different areas of RC, like you like bashing and playing, and I mean, anyone that follows you, you're really, really involved just in RC in general, so with the drag racing, in a way, I was kind of surprised when I saw you showing some interest in that, but then it kind of clicked. I was like, well, what is it about the drag racing that's appealing to him? Is it the speed, or is it, the realism?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Looking at, I mean, if you follow Tim Smith, I mean, his cars are amazing, and those pro stock cars. I mean, my dad, I'm a motorhead, and I've always loved drag racing. I love going fast. If you follow me, I'm into speedboats. So it's a whole nother thing that I'm into. So anything with a motor going super fast, like drag racing or it catches my attention. Right. And then when you see the car, these little tiny, and you actually go to the drag races, and you see them line them up, and you look at them as they're getting them up on the lights, and they say, "Watch the lights!" Boom, and they go down, and boom, they take off. It's other than the smell of top fuel, and you just hearing the electric motor. It's very real. It's very real feeling when you're even there watching them. And if you get the video shot, and you look at the video shot, I mean, other than the sound and the big flames shooting out of the pipes and all that, it's very scale. The drag racing stuff is extremely scale. So that is very much what is appealing to me, is not only the speed, but the cars. It's always the cars.
So would you be comfortable saying then that you would consider this new, like the Slash no prep drag racing, would you include that in Scale RC in general? Like, is that something you'd lump into the same category, or what? Like, what's your personal thought on that?
Yeah, I would say that when the no prep street outlaw style drag racers, I with the Mustang bodies and stuff like that, even though they're a Lexan, they're not a hard body, and they don't, I say they resemble scale. Absolutely. Yeah,
it's just weird. I'm seeing a lot of crossover lately. A lot of people getting interested in it, which, I mean, of course they are, because it's really cool. But like the local RC park that we have up here, Die Hard RC, they are putting in a crawler course, and what it is it's this farm, and they lease the back section of this farm, and there's an airfield that's been there for probably about 20 years, and there's even a paved road that's there that is only traveled for the airplanes and stuff. And we were looking at it the other day, and they were like, hey, we could do a no prep drag strip right here. I mean, there's very little cracking, and I think we'd have like 1 or 2 patches to do at the most, but it's there's easily the 300 or so feet that you need for the drag strip. And I'm seeing a lot of the same crawler guys getting all excited and pumped up over the drag racing thing too. And it's just funny. It's like at some point I kind of envision Scale RC just expanding and the scene encompassing all of this stuff, whereas you've got racing, and that's kind of its own little thing, and then you've got Scale RC, which has U4 racing, drag racing, crawling, all this other stuff, because it all is so realistic now.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's what's so appealing about any of the new kind of RCs that are out right now, is it's very much everything is going towards the scale look. I mean, you'll always have your 8-scale buggy, and you're always going to have your 10-scale buggy,
right,
and your truggies, and they're always going to kind of look the way they look.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, because Aero counts on those, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, and and if you listen to Tim and what he talks about with the dry, Aero is everything.
Yeah.
On top of motor setup and wheel and tire and gear and everything. But if you've got a car that's doesn't have proper Aero, it's not going to shoot straight down the track. It's
right.
gonna fight you. So there's kind of that fine line to where when these guys are designing these cars, for many years they're designing RC to be functional and to run, and now they're starting to create these cars where they're taking scale into consideration, and then still trying to make the RC run on top of it being scale, which
right.
kind of I think for the companies makes it a little more challenging, because for years everything's just a flat pan with a center diff and another diff, and you throw a body on it with some shock towers and you're done.
Yeah.
It's like I listen to these people say, this is a copycat of this and that. I was like, the flat pan car's been around since the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. That goes back longer than most people have been alive that are in the hobby.
Yeah, the flat pan car's been around forever. So, whatever.
It's funny that argument and conversation is something that's always going to happen. You there, Adam?
Oh yeah.
You there?
No, all I was gonna say, yeah. You still?
Yes.
Look, you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. Okay. So what I was just gonna say was, I understand, we called ourselves That Scale RC Show, and I know we both kind of have more of a, trail, I guess, scale crawler kind of background, and that's kind of like where everything kind of like starts. But the fact that we're labeling it Scale RC, it's to me anything that can resemble exactly like what Shawn was saying, where you can bring in the real life one-to-one look and replicate that down into a scale form. I would say, yeah, that's Scale RC. As long as you're trying to make it true to something that exists, I would say that's Scale RC. It doesn't matter if it's, you want to say scale boats, planes, drag cars, U4 cars, whatever it is. And you already nailed it on the head. You obviously have your cars that are going to resemble more of an RC car / toy. That's, the design they've been, that's the way it's going to be. And then you have the other side that it's trying to get it as realistic as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of what keeps me going is how much farther can you push the envelope to where people are second guessing. Like, it's actually pretty funny. I know this is a little side note, but it kind of ties into what we were talking about. So up here in Northern California, there's a real 4x4 shop called WFO Concepts, and they're out of Auburn. Have 1-ton axles, all that stuff. Well, their media guy looks up people that use the hashtag WFO Concepts. Well, Elio used that in a couple of his posts with his scale Jeeps, because I cut him out some WFO stickers for the windshield, and they reposted one of those, and I'm still not sure if their media guy thought that was a real Jeep or if they knew it was a toy but thought it was cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great problem to have with this hobby.
So I mean, I'm sitting here going like I was like, yeah. So I'm sitting here going, okay, do they know that's a toy, or do they just think, oh, this is somebody's Jeep, and they slapped the windshield sticker on there and they're out there using it? I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know. I almost wanted to hit up, because I know the owner. I almost wanted to hit him up and say, hey, does your social media guy know that this is a toy, or was it just because it says WFO on it, so he's resharing it? So, but no, it's cool. I mean, when you have that, like Jay said, that problem where you're like, hey, is that real or is that fake? I think that's the goal that a lot of the scale enthusiasts try to do.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Or achieve.
That's what you want to do, is you want to trick them. You know? No, I see a lot of those kind of pictures, of Jeeps. Primarily Jeeps is what you'll see. And the first thing I look at is the rims. Yeah. So that's where I'm looking at the rims, I'm looking at the screws that are holding on the hubs and things like that to try and figure it out,
That's really cool.
Well, see,
though.
and then I don't know if you're and I don't know if you're this way, because I know that's kind of how I am, and Jay, I don't know if I've ever asked you this either. Once I start doing something a certain way to achieve a certain scale look, it's hard to revert back to what you used to do. Like, for instance, like running VP wheels, you always give you. I've recently started using the acorn nuts, and now I can't go back. Like, I have to use Locked Up RC's scale acorn nuts just because it gives that much better of a look.
It does.
So I don't know if you. So, well, no. What I'm saying is, like, that's a thing that I've gone into, and I haven't been able to revert backwards. So I don't know. Are you guys the same way? Like, do you, do something differently to achieve a scale look, and then like you kind of never go back?
I'm always trying to switch things up on my cars, or at least especially my trail car. I'll run it for a little while and get bored with it, and then I'll want to switch it up. So I would say that, some of my cars, especially the trail one, I'm always trying to do something different to it. I just added a gun rack, a while back, go to the back and then put a pistol on the front seat. It's just a little stuff that you try and do, and that's something that I'm trying to actually get more into is the little knickknacks, your scale by Chris items and all of the little chainsaws, and my wife loves that stuff, so it makes her interested in it. So I'm always trying to do something scale with my cars. For the crawlers, my race cars, I'm only going so scale because I'm beating them up. So you don't want to go too scale. Like my UC Fab stuff, I'm not adding, radiators and all of that. Like Mike Cassar and Gene Boyd, they're good at that kind of stuff. They'll go a little extra mile on their UC Fab cars. Whereas me, I'm just trying to thoroughbred racer it.
Right.
So.
And that's actually one other area I think we should probably bring to an attention to anybody else listening. I know we've been saying UC Fab a lot, and I'm sure if people go and look up UC Fab, to my knowledge, Kyle is not taking orders on anything new. The only way to get your hands on a UC Fab chassis is to find somebody selling it, which is very hard to do.
You are 100% correct. I'm not going to say too much and speak on his behalf, but he's busy with the one-to-one stuff now.
Oh yeah.
But never fail. Boyd's up there right now as we speak, hanging out with him.
Nice.
Now, what's going to become in the future, we'll all have to wait and see. But
Nice.
yeah, those chassis are hard to get your hands on. They are, you know, they're awesome. I have a couple of them laying around here, and yeah, I wouldn't even think about getting rid of them.
Oh,
Ever.
there's something you got to see in person. Like you have
Yeah,
to,
once
have
you
to
actually,
see one.
yeah, once you get your hands on one and you drive them, and for me, you know, I've been racing my PRT for almost 2 years, and I've taken, you know, a couple points championships with it, and then I just got my FIS and took the nationals with it. And once you actually do really well with them and drive them, it's just like, yeah, I'm not getting rid of this. Are you crazy?
Well, for it's not just that; it's the actual, like, if you're somebody who can admire quality work,
Oh yeah.
that's another reason why you won't get rid of it. It's just because of that. I mean, it took me. I've talked about getting a UC Fab chassis for the past 2 years, but it wasn't until this past year that I actually made it a goal. And thankfully, you know, Gene Boyd helped me with that. And he actually purchased a rig that he wasn't planning on doing anything with. He just wanted it because he didn't want it floating around.
Yep.
And he knew I was looking for it. So he's like, hey, I got my hands on one. Would you like it? And I said, without, you know, a pause, yes. How much?
Yeah.
Because I know if I don't do it now, the chances of it being there again are going to be slim.
Very slim.
So,
no, it's crazy. You'll see them go up for sale, and like within a day or so, they're gone.
oh yeah.
And the amount of money they go for
So,
is just like, wow, you know.
Worth every penny, though.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, it's worth it.
Well, when you look at, and I think you guys were talking about this on your very first podcast, what it takes to bend and weld and put together a metal cage. I mean, you're talking hours and hours and hours of labor.
Yeah.
You know, and people, you know, some people, they cringe when they hear how much one of these cages costs. But when you break that down per dollar per hour, you know, it's not that much. I mean, these things take a long time to build.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the welds that are done are so clean, and they're not all boogered up. You know, I've seen some cages built, and you look at the welds, and it's just like a big snot ball holding it together, and it's like, you know, his stuff is just clean. All the seams, all the, you know, where the tubing meets together. You know, I mean, those aren't pressured in. They are, the tubes are set just nice and neat, and so there's a lot of tender loving care that Kyle puts into these cages to get them built.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
And then the other area that goes into it is the material.
Yeah.
You know, I think he used to do the two versions. He had the solid and the DOM style tubing.
Yep.
And if anybody knows the difference, the solid is obviously going to be heavier, the DOM is going to be lighter, but the DOM is a special process, especially getting it down in that small of a size. It costs more. So that also, you know,
you got to drive those cars a little more careful too. My FIS RIS is hollow tube, and my PRT HD is solid. And you know, when you look at the cages, if you're not nice to the car, it's going to show.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, if you get into a bad situation, you're going to be tapping it back straight again. You know. But I've got a few bars on my FIS that need some work from him. But as far as like the chassis and everything else, it still tracks straight and everything. It's just, you know, it's taken a tumble or two, and so it's got a couple bars that need him to. In time, sometime we'll send it out there and let him work on it. You know.
Yeah, with him being as busy as he is, I was actually fortunate enough when I purchased mine, which I guess you can call it a Wraith drop-in, a WDI, because it was one that he didn't do a lot of, I guess, because I actually was fortunate enough to talk to Kyle for like 2 hours before I sent him the chassis, because after I purchased it off of Gene, it was, you could tell somebody else had, for lack of better words, molested it. It was, some things were altered, and it wasn't like a true, you know, UC Fab style. So I sent some pictures to Kyle, and he said, "Oh yeah, somebody else changed some of that out because they went with a different style of steering setup." So I said, "Well, I would like it to be how you'd be happy with it, like with your name on it, saying yes, this is something that left my shop, my name is behind it." So I said, "I'm going to send it to you. I don't care what it costs, just fix it." And he was actually really accommodating, and I was actually shocked he got it done as fast as he did, because I think when I sent it out to him, he was getting ready for something, for some one-to-one event. I just don't know which one it was, but it was out there in Utah. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think, or maybe it was in Colorado, but I just don't. I know he was getting ready to leave, so the fact that he was actually able to knock it out one night, I was actually blown away.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, what he does, true work of art.
Yep, they sure are.
So, but yeah, I just felt like I wanted to get that out there because, like, I know some of our listeners, they've always asked us, hey, can you post up what it is you're talking about? Can you post up where we can find this stuff? And I want to just make that clear that it's not something, especially the UC Fab, you're not going to be able to just go out and buy. It's not like a household name like, Axial or Enduro or Team Associated. You can't just go out and purchase that they're not, mass producing them.
No, those are your trophy rigs. And U4RC, we have a class, and they're called trophies. So you have Trophy I, which is independent, and that could be independent front, solid rear, or independent front, independent rear. And then you have your Trophy S, which is solid axle, which is like your BDI, your bomber drop-in, or your rate drop-in, or something like that. And UC Fab's not the only guy out there that makes cages or made cages. There's RC Fab Works, and there's other builders out there like Emery Works and things like that you can get in line. I don't know if Duncan is building cages or not. I can't really say, but he did at one time, and you could try and look these guys up and see if they'll build you a cage. But yeah, that's the trick, is finding the builder, getting some money down, waiting for the cage to be built, and then starting the hard process, making it all work, because these are 100% custom. There is no instruction manual. There is no, I'm just going to go to the hobby store and take this cage and be like, how do I put it together? They're going to look at you and go, I don't know. So you gotta, you do need to kind of come up with a plan of attack of what you're going to do, and what you're going to base it off of, whether or not you're going to build it, based off of a Wraith, or you're going to build it based off of a bomber, or, that's the easier way to do it, is just kind of have your cage built around an existing car, and the trick is, though, is, they do require, there's a lot of rules when it comes into the trophy rigs, and I would recommend anybody that's looking to build a cage for U4RC to race on a national level that they go to u4rc.com and look at the rules under the trophy sections, because there are wheelbase, track width, window sizes. Shocks need to mount to the cage itself, not to shock towers. So there's some details that need to be paid attention to when you're actually building one of these cars. The trophy ones. Now your other classes that we have, like your 1.9 trail, that's just your TRX4 or any other over-the-counter trail car. Then you have your 2.2 solid, which is going to be your Wraith or your bomber, or maybe your G-made, cars or something like that. And those, there's rules, but not so much, you don't really need to worry about the rules, because it's a out-of-the-box car, you know what I mean? Right. And then you've got your,
exactly.
Then you got your 2.2 Indy, which is your independent front solid rear axle cars. That's your Yeti and your Rock Ray. And those cars, again, now there is a wheelbase difference between the Yeti and the Rock Ray. It's very minute, and we have not necessarily written the Rock Ray into the rules, but we're not ruling it out either. The Rock Ray's been racing in U4 since the day it was released, so it's one of those things where, like, if you go and look at the rules and you measure your Rock Ray, it's off, but we're not gonna it's legal. So,
Yeah.
and then there's the 2-2 Unlimited, which is probably one of the newer classes that we've added to U4 since I've started. This has, been a group effort between when Arizona was running. Everybody kind of came up with this idea of running fully independent, kind of a hybrid buggy, truggy / short course car, but yet you still got to have a cage and drivers. And that's probably the fastest class that we got now. So
I bet.
that one kind of gets out of the scale look a little bit because, that's my DB48, which is techno. So yeah, when you pull the cage off, it's a flat pan. Um, but we built that class. That class is for people that want to go fast, real fast, and then also maybe they've got a short course car, maybe they got an 8-scale buggy and they want to come rock race. It's not that hard to make that buggy or that short course car into an unlimited and come have fun.
Right.
You could very easily take one of those cars and put a low C, what is it, SEBE cage on a short course car with 2 tires and have at it.
That's cool. That's a good way to get people into it.
That was the idea.
Nice. Well, yeah. The more the merrier, and I guess if you have all the different classes, you can get your beginner guys, come into something that's more, like you said, over the counter style classes, and then they can grow from there if they want to start diving into a little more, unique setup or whatever. I guess this is you, and you can laugh all you want, but Jay might even get a kick out of this too. Besides becoming more popular in the 1-to-1 world, would you guys consider?
I didn't catch the question. You were cutting out.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened with this. It was like my thing was beeping in my ear. I don't know what was going on. Anyways, my question was, with side-by-sides becoming so popular in the 1-to-1 world, if enough people had them, like the scale versions, would you guys consider a side-by-side class?
I think we have too many classes as it is right now, possibly. But because we have so many classes, I think we'd have to lose one in order to add another one.
Right.
No, I get it. I just didn't know because, with King of the Hammers, they have the side-by-side class where they all run.
Right.
So
I would, maybe not on a series level, but like at a Proline by the Fire event where I'm coming in and doing a U4 deal, and we're not really racing all the classes. We're just, we have a solid class and a 1-9, 2-2 class and a 1-9 class, and it's just open. Bring what you got. That would be something I think that we would race those cars if enough of them showed up. And create a hot lap for it. That's primarily what we do at the Proline by the Fire is we do hot laps. We don't really race all the cars all at once.
Dude, that's a great idea.
So I think that that the side by sides absolutely could come and run at an event like that, or possibly another U4 event that I might throw. That's not basically a series. That's kind of like a call out race or something like that for sure.
That would be really cool to see, like Axial do something like that at Axial Fest. Have a Yeti Junior, side-by-side course just specifically for racing those. That'd be kind of something fun.
Because it's scale and because they do race them at King of the Hammers, I would agree that it fits in U4. That it fits. Do we run it right now? No, not yet. But it's it fits because the KOH guys are doing it.
It'd be so sick for like a little backyard course. Have like 3 or 4 buddies come over and race those things. God, that'd be fun.
I actually drove one a while back ago when we were kind of like walking out horsemen, coming up with plans for the 2019 Pro Life by the Fire, and it's cool.
It's
Cool.
pretty fun.
Am I going to race out and go get one right away? No, not. I got other things on my plate, but I wouldn't turn it down. They're fun.
Yeah, once you get the weight situated and you throw some decent suspension under that thing, like, dude, they're a kick in the ass. Like, it is serious fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because it's like, me and Jay, we've always had this joke about, hey, we should make these things contenders and, take them out to the trail and stuff and, put them up against, like the SCX 10s and, the TRX 4s and take them up lines that those guys are just like, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, they're definitely fun. It's a unique thing. I'll admit, when I got mine, it was more of a, novelty thing. But I've thrown a couple bucks at it and, made it something that I'm happy with. So, in the end, I guess, it's a win-win.
Right.
So, no, I was just always curious about that because that's one area that I've actually been kind of surprised about that somebody hasn't, even like with like this.
I'm losing you again.
Mm-hmm. I'm losing them too.
Or not scale, but like the custom chassis guy is like, I'm surprised nobody's tried to make some sort of I usually do the podcast. Still there?
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't catch what you were saying, but I'm here.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I said, this will be the last time I'll say it right now. I'm not doing a podcast from the house. I usually always go to our office because the Wi-Fi is better there and all that stuff. So,
oh man, I was having cell problems today. I was texting Jay going, I don't know what's going on with my phone.
Yeah, and of course that's what's happening with me. I've always said, well, I could do a podcast from here, but now I'm determined it ain't happening anymore. I'm convinced.
We learned something tonight.
So, well, we're learning a lot tonight. We're learning about U4RC. We're learning about my crappy Wi-Fi. So,
what's the mailing address for your Wi-Fi company? We're gonna have everybody send them hate mail.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different conversation, but from my understanding, especially the way Wi-Fi works, especially around where I live, I don't know if all, neighborhoods are set up this way, but I guess each block has its own, phone connection center.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, depending on where the house is located on the block, you either get better or worse, connection. We are literally the last house in the series, so it's going to be crappy no matter what.
And you're on a cable internet service?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're sharing the bandwidth within the neighborhood.
Yep.
Yeah.
So crappy.
Hey,
especially during these times, these hours when everybody's home.
Exactly.
That's when you're going to know.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we're getting
we've been.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Adam. There's a weird delay, and we keep talking over each other.
Yeah, I know. I've had this before. It happened, unfortunately, when we did a podcast with Tim Smith a while back. No, all I was going to say is we've been promised broadband for the last 3 years, but it's never come here. So.
Oh, great. Well, what I was going to say, I know we're getting kind of close to our time here, but I wanted to kind of ask your guys' opinion on something. And, I mean, and this will kind of give you an idea, like, how much I've been thinking about basically the term scale RC and what all that encompasses. And when the drag racing thing started up, looked super cool, got excited about it right away. Couple other guys too. It never really took off or went anywhere because it was sort of like everybody is waiting for the other guy to make the first step and build one, before they wanted to jump on board. So we're still kind of running into that problem, but I think once one person steps it up, it's going to take off. But I had some resistance when I first had brought this up with our Scale Crawler Club, and I had brought up the drag racing. I said, is this something that you guys feel you'd be interested in or whatnot. And a lot of people are like, no, we just want to keep it strictly crawler. And so from running everyone said that it should have its own separate group, but that turns into a whole other nightmare. Like, I know myself, I don't want to have like 4 different, Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts to accommodate, every, group page or whatever that we have going. So personally, I kind of wish that we would somehow be able to embrace the scale, the no prep drag racing into what we're doing with our club, so that it's kind of one place to go for information on anything that is, has to do with scale RC. But like I said, I kind of had some resistance with that. So I just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on it. I mean, do you see things kind of going in the same direction? And some of the pages that you're a part of where these groups are getting more involved in other things, does it make sense to kind of consolidate those on social media or keep it all separate?
Personally, for me, I think on an administrative level, because that's what I do a lot of, it makes it a lot easier to administrate it under one house instead of spread all over the place. Scale RC is exactly what you're saying it is. It's scale RC. It goes anywhere from rock racing to crawling to scale drag racing to trophy trucks. There is a certain set of products out there right now that the companies are selling that is based on scale, and it's not just crawling. I mean, when you're looking at, drag racing is still, and it's still its own entity, you know what I mean? Like, it's not as popular as 8 scale. Well, it might be as popular, but as far as like going to the hobby store and you're going to go buy a drag car, really, there are no drag cars to just buy at the quote unquote hobby store. These are cars, they're kind of like a UC Fab car. You got to kind of build it.
Right.
Or you got to know a guy, or you got to know a group, and that's how you get your drag car built. To me, that makes it even more special. But I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that are selling scale stuff. So I think it does fall in. I think it's new. And anytime you have something new, you're going to have a little bit of resistance. People fuss with change a little bit, or fuss with new stuff. And so, yeah, there's going to be that. But I think in time, it's going to work. It'll work fine.
And start seeing more crossover and stuff. That couldn't have been a better answer, dude. Like that was, I'm sitting here going, man, oh man, this is so great that, he was the one that I chose to bring all this stuff up with, because like what you just said was just so spot on, dude. You couldn't have answered it any better.
I love the scale stuff, like my Baja Ray. If you were to ask me, what's your favorite RC car? Well, that would be really hard, but I love the Baja Ray. I like trophy trucks.
Yeah.
I think the trophy trucks are bitching. The UDR is awesome to look at. It's not a car that I drive a lot. It sits on my bench and I push on the suspension and I'll take it out and kind of drive it around, but it's not one of those cars that I'm beating on,
right,
because I bought it to look at it. Right. That's really why I bought it, because I love the way it looks. I've got lots of RC cars that look like RC cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like the scale stuff. That is my favorite. Whether it's fast, slow, it doesn't matter. If it's got drivers in it and headlights and, radiators and, fire extinguishers and jack stands and all that fun stuff that these cars are starting to come out with, that's what I love about it. It makes it fun.
Well, another thing that I wanted to kind of touch on too was the fact that if anyone follows your social media, well, we got that overlap thing going. If anyone follows you on social media, they'll see, almost weekly race reports. They'll see you involved in as many different things as you are. You've got a lot of online presence in the different areas that you're involved in with Facebook and with Instagram and everything. You're really, really active on Facebook, I think, more so than possibly Instagram. Just because of the content that you can actually post. But I mean, you've kind of you're one of the few people out there that's like really, really doing it right as far as representing your sponsors and doing things to grow the hobby. And that was one of the reasons why I thought you'd be perfect for this episode, because people can kind of hear about your involvement and how passionate you are, and you're really one of the few guys that's doing everything you can to help things grow, and that's a really cool thing to see, and it's a sponsor's dream, to see this guy that's posting weekly what he's been up to, builds, showing off new products that come out that is from his sponsors and stuff, and you do a fantastic job of that. And I think in the future, you may have end up hating me for doing this, but in the future I was thinking, like you really are kind of the perfect person to refer somebody to if they have sponsorship questions, because like I said, I mean, you're doing everything right, and it's very, very cool to see. And what you're doing, it's easy to see the direct impact that you're having on the hobby as a result of that. You're getting a lot of positive comments, people liking your photos, engaging in conversations with you about the stuff that you happen to go do on that particular weekend. And I'm kind of losing like what I'm trying to say without repeating myself. You've really got it dialed, and I think if I were to try to explain to anybody what people are looking for and what your online presence should be, I would definitely refer them to you, to use you as an example in that situation, because of just how engaged you are with everybody. It's not like you just post and disappear. Like you actually pull people in and you guys have a conversation about what's going on, so it's cool.
Thank you, Jay. I do this because I love it. It's really, there's no money in this. We all know this. There's no money. This hobby costs me money. I don't make a penny running U4. I don't make a penny making the flyers, making the awards, all of that stuff. I do it all the coordinating, working with ProLine, working with all my events. I do it all because I love it. It's rad. One of those things where I'm not looking at it to make a profession out. I would love to, right? Who wouldn't? But I do this because I love RC. I've been in RC since I was 6 years old. I have everything RC. You name it, I have it.
That's cool.
Trains, planes, helicopters. The only thing I've never done is race road, but I have everything. And I do it because I love it. I love tinkering on cars. I love turning wrenches. It's just, it's a huge passion. The sponsor thing really didn't, and you probably know this, Jay. I mean, really, the sponsor thing didn't start happening for me until about 2 years ago. It was always one of those things where, I've had a passion for RC my whole life, but the sponsors were like, "Oh, that's impossible. You can't get a sponsor." But it wasn't until I met Gene Boyd that he actually showed me the way to make it actually possible. And then once I met Heath from Cal RC, and being on the team with Cal RC, that definitely molded me on the pictures, because Heath loves that stuff. That's what makes Cal RC tick, is the social media side of it. And so that's what really took off. Like, I just became almost like an obsession, of just having so much fun taking these pictures of my cars and my bench, and it just manifested into now I just do it out of muscle memory. I go to the bathroom in the morning with my cup of coffee and I do a couple posts. Yep. And it's just because I love it. I love RC. I love helping. So yeah, if anybody wants to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and you want to know, how to take it to that next level, not saying I'm a pro, but I will give you as much information that I can,
Yeah, I didn't mean to volunteer you without having your permission or anything.
I have absolutely no problem. One of my things that I like to do when I go to the track, because I try and take a minute and step away from my bench and help. I know that I'm like any other racer. When it's in the heat of the moment, I get really into the race zone, and maybe I might not be totally approachable, but but just know that if you have a question or you got something you want to talk to me about at the track, come up to me, grab me, say, hey man, I'm more than happy to take a second and talk to anybody, really, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. And to anybody that's listening to this too, and it's something that Adam and I have both stressed so many times, and that is that if you're looking to get sponsored, get into it for the right reasons. Don't do it for the stuff. And one of the things that's really easy to see with you, Shawn, is getting the stuff. Yeah, who doesn't like goodies, But
Right.
we actually see you out, like, helping with Proline, helping with all these different events. And a lot of the fun of being a sponsored driver isn't getting the stuff. It's your involvement with that company. And that's what makes it really fun, is having that rapport with them and bouncing ideas back and forth. And especially when you're, with a company like, let's say, Proline, where they're super, super receptive to feedback and new ideas and stuff. That side of it, and I can't tell people this enough, that is what's way more fun than getting product. I mean, it's being a part of that company and being valued as a team driver, and that should be your goal, because you're going to better yourself, you're going to better the hobby, you're going to better your local scene, and it's going to draw more and more people in. So, really, I mean, anyone listening to this, really look not just at the list of sponsors he has and the stickers that are on his cars, but really take a look at what Shawn is doing out in the RC community. And that is what has helped propel him to the level that he's at, is his active involvement. And I know not everybody's a leader, or they want to jump in and volunteer, and maybe they have, some limitations, but really that should be your number one goal. Is I want to be a part of this community and figure out ways in which I can make it better, not the stuff. So people, please, keep that in mind, and you're going to see the hobby start to elevate and be even more fun than it really is.
I bought all the stuff before the sponsors.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
I bought all the goodies before the sponsors. Proline particular, I value every one of my sponsors, but Proline in particular, I started using Proline in the very early 80s, and so they have a special part in my heart, because I just have always ran Proline.
Yep.
I've always ran their bodies. I've always, they're and then once you actually get to know the people that work at Proline and everything, they are the greatest people. I can't say enough wonderful things about Proline and everybody that works at that place. They are the nicest people.
Oh yeah,
they really are.
Absolutely.
They do. They really care about the customer big time, and so it's a real honor to have all my sponsors, really. But they're definitely one of my favorites.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, is there, speaking of sponsors, and we're kind of hitting our time here, do you, let's have you give a shout out to everybody that helps you continue to have fun the way that you do.
Absolutely. I want to thank my sponsors, Cal RC, Proline, Techno RC, MKS, Tim Smith Racing, Holmes Hobbies, SOR, thank you, Jay, SKG Paint, and RC Drag Talk. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to all my U4RC sponsors, which is UC Vab, Voodoo Tires, Vanquish, Axial, RCCrawler.com, Holmes Hobbies, Extreme Performance, Proline, SKG, Reeves RC, Boom RC, Techno RC, Cow RC, the RC Network, my buddy Rich, and Competition X, my buddy Tony.
Tony's great. I got to ask, did you have all that written down, or did you just rattle that off?
No, I haven't written down.
Okay. So I was going to say, honestly, it wouldn't have surprised me at all if you would have just had it all off the top of your head.
No, but I cannot leave those out. They're very important. I also have to give a shout out to, seeing how we're doing this, I really have to give a shout out to the guys that originally started U4RC. And I know I'm going to leave out some names, but Brian Jones and Tobin. And John Astor, Chris Pickering, those guys in my circle if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be in U4RC. So I got to thank the president, for letting me be the admin of U4RC, letting me hold the torch and run with it.
That's awesome, man.
Get a shout out to Brian.
Right on. No, you're doing a great job
Awesome.
for him. That's for sure. It's really been fun to watch. And if anybody is even remotely interested in U4, where to send them? U4RC.com.
So they can go to u4rc.com. We do have a web page. We're also u4rc.com on Facebook, and then we're SoCal U4RC on Facebook, and then like we mentioned these guys before, and I'll give them another shout out on the East Coast. New Bedford Radio Control Club in Massachusetts. You could follow them on Facebook. We also have up in NorCal. We have the Raceway at Rescue. You can find them on Facebook. That is in Rescue, California. And then also up in Washington, the trying to remember, WARCRC.
Yep.
I think is how you find them. Those guys too. I don't get to talk to those guys as much, but I'll give them a shout out too, because they are supporting U4. So these are areas that you can go on Facebook to try and get into a race. I know there is a U4RC in Australia, but they don't do too much, or I don't get to see too much of what they're doing. So, that's the information that I have for anybody that's looking for an area.
Right on. We'll be sure to post up links
Sweet.
and stuff to all that too.
Yeah.
I can. You can always go to. I mean, all these guys. I'm sure I've tagged them, and just go to my Facebook page, dig around. I'll repost some of this stuff for you guys. Anybody that's looking for information.
Right on. Appreciate that,
Sweet.
man. Yeah, I did it for a little bit, and honestly, it is probably the most fun type of RC racing I'd ever tried. So if you guys are interested in it and you've got one in your area, absolutely go check it out.
Yeah, and I will be out at the next Pro Line by the Fire. We will be doing a U4 deal. So
Nice.
If you're wanting to come see me next year for that, that'd be great.
Right on.
Another thing you'll be able to find me at also in November, the AMA Expo West will be probably coming back around, and me and Proline will be doing the monster truck pit party again too.
Oh,
so if
sweet. Right on.
You want to come down, anybody want to come down and say hi, I'll have a bunch of cars, and we'll be putting on a show for everybody like we did last year. So
right on. That's cool.
Keep your ears open on that one.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get back into our sharing RC events.
Yeah, I know it. Need to get better about that. Will do.
So,
well, you got anything for Shawn before we take off here, Adam?
No, I was just actually trying to stay somewhat quiet so I wouldn't screw up the rest of this podcast.
No, it's fine. All right, guys. Well, thank you, listeners, very much, and we will see all of you next time.